will share his experience, strength, and hope with us for approximately 45 minutes, or whenever he's done. We ask out of respect for our speaker to remain seated until he has finished. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce our speaker, Kevin.
Good evening. Well, you all here? Yeah. You guys aren't here. My name is Kevin. I'm an alcoholic. There's some newcomers here, new people here. Welcome. Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. We're glad you're here. You probably are not, but we are. We want you to keep coming back, and we love you. I'm saying some things that I heard when I got here that I didn't understand. People said, keep coming back. What? What does that mean, keep coming back? And they said, we love you, we'll love you until you can love yourself. And I was saying, what? I knew at that point I didn't, but I was still questioning it. I love Alcoholics Anonymous because I'm now a part of something greater than myself. I can say that now. I'm going to be talking about these guys right here. I'm going to be talking about my story and that circle and triangle. I think there's only one in here, and it's that block. And it's how it all connects, unity, recovery, and service. I do all three because that's how I was taught. You guys taught me some things that I didn't know when I got here. I didn't know anything when I got here. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I come in here, I knew nothing about nothing. I like saying that. I grew up in this little bitty town in northern Maine. It was very French and very Catholic, and I didn't quite fit in there. Since I was a little kid, I didn't quite fit in. But something special happened. Catholics like drinking wine, right? And I was a little kid. I can't even remember how old I was. Just a little kid, and we all sit at this big table, and we'd have Sunday dinners and stuff. And my mom would start pouring little glasses of wine for everybody, even the kids, They realized later they shouldn't have done that with me, but they started pouring these little glasses of wine around the table. And me, I'm a little kid, and I'm not feeling too great. I'm not fitting in anywhere, and I drank that little glass of wine. And I can explain it to you, but you probably already know. You start feeling it. It's in your mouth, it's down your arms, it's in your fingers, it's going all the way to your feet. And then I was okay. I remember that. It took the steps for me to dig that up because I didn't remember that. But working the steps, going all the way back to the beginning, I realized that that's where I had that first feeling. And my friends, I chased that feeling for the next 40 years. I welcome the younger people in here. It's great that you're here. It's great to have a seed planted at a young age. I didn't quite have that. I got there's 4 of us in the family, my mom and dad, and there was 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. All 3 of them didn't have a problem with drinking. My dad was definitely not an alcoholic. He liked his 2 scotches and waters every once in a while, and that was it. We had a big fight, me and him, all growing up, because I would come home wasted. Just totally wasted. I don't know why. I didn't know why. When I went out and started drinking, that's what I did. I got wasted, and I would come home. He would be upset. I never want to see you coming home like that. I said, okay, I can do that. No problem. I won't do that anymore. Yeah. I did it again, and I did it again, and I did it again. I remember me and him going fishing, and I'm older, right? And we'd grab a 6-pack. We'd be in the boat. 30 minutes down the road, my 3 are gone. And he's sucking on one of them, right? And I'm looking at him, and I'm just amazed. How is he doing that? And then he reaches over, and he's pouring it over the boat. I said, what are you doing? He goes, well, it's warm. That's the difference between me and him. It's warm. I don't want it anymore. And I would see him at night. I've never seen that man at all a little bit. Never. I've never seen him tipsy, ever, until this past January, and might as well touch on that now. I've been sober. My sobriety date is May 15th, 2010. Just celebrated a little over 10 years, and I was pretty much unaccountable for anything those last number of years. It could be decades. I don't know. I had the privilege of going to Florida this January to place my mom in a memory care unit. I was able to do that. They asked me to do that. You know, my brothers and sisters says, "Can you do that?" I said, "Yeah, I can do that." 10 years ago, I couldn't do that. It was impossible for me. I'm an alcoholic. When I started drinking, alcohol had damaged me and my brain and my body to a point where I just didn't give a shit anymore. Nobody counted on me anymore. My kids didn't like me. That was where I was. So I went and I put her in a memory care unit in January. There's 4 of us, so we were gonna, do this throughout the year. Everybody's in California or in Arizona, so we were going to take turns in going. So my sister went in February, and then the shit hit the fan in March. And she's been in lockdown since then, right? But I was able to go do that for her. And they've been married 65 years this coming July. We went by July, didn't we? Okay. They were married. Yeah, so they just celebrated 65 years. And when I was there in January was the first time my dad, he's 91 now, we left, we put her in, and we came back. He goes, "You mind if we stop at the store?" So we stopped at the store, we bought some groceries, and I told you he's a Scotch guy. And he goes, "I'm going to go next door, I'm going to buy a bottle, you don't mind?" I said, "No, I don't mind, I'm okay with it." And he did, and we went home, and that was on a Monday. Monday was okay, he had 1 or 2, and Tuesday was okay. Wednesday he broke down. First time in my life I've seen that guy have more than 2. He needed it, and I've never seen him do that after that. All the time that I was there, Wednesday was it. Was it a shock to me? I don't know. He needed the breakdown, he really did, because these people have been together for 65 years, right? And we put her in, and he's feeling guilty and all that stuff that we feel. And he got a little toasty that night, and I helped him to bed and stuff, and he's 91, so we do that. But for him, it was one night in 91 years. Me, it was every night, And I remember that feeling of having that wine, and I chased it forever, and going through school. My first drunk was, I was drunk and it was a blackout. I was in the 7th grade, me and my friend, little redhead, we broke into her father's house and we started drinking his gin, and I blacked out. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what a blackout was till I got here, but I knew I was having them, and that was the first. She remembers a little more than I do. That's a little sad on my part. There's things you don't remember and you wish you would. Anyway, I got busted that night. We both got busted that day. Walking home, I walked by my barber shop and my dad was in there. Little town. He saw me stumbling around. He got me in the car. We got home. That was the beginning of the end of trust for us. So that continued through high school. I graduated. Not great, but I did. And the trouble started. I heard a speaker the other day. You got 3 stages. You get the fun part. Stage 1 is fun. And I had a lot of fun growing up. I had a lot of fun. And, we do have a singleness of purpose, but I could ask you, who out there's probably some in the room, who out there only had an alcohol problem? All right. I smoked pot at a young age. I did a lot of cocaine. I did a lot of methamphetamine. I did a lot of stuff to fill this spiritual hole that I had. And it went in phases. So I did all that kind of shit. And moving to Connecticut is where the blackouts really started, because I moved away from home. Graduated high school, packed up my stuff, $100, and I went, I'm getting out of here. A little bitty small town. That's where the blackouts started. And it became more and more and more and more, and it just continued. I didn't know how sick I was really, really getting. I didn't know how sick I was until I got sober, and that was at 47 years of age. I got introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous. I drank a lot. I did, and other substances were part of it. But I drank a lot. I was a really good alcoholic. I was in construction most of my life, and, we would travel around, and we would get drunk. And it was the same thing. I look back at it when I was working my steps, it was the same thing over and over and over again. I would wake up in the morning in some motel. We're doing construction. and I'm nasty, and I don't even know where I was that night before. Don't even remember what happened. And I said, okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm done. I'm not going to do that anymore, right? You get in the shower, you go to work, you're feeling like crap, you go to Circle K, you get some coffee, you're working in the morning, noon hour hits. And something in here goes, oh, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't quite that bad. You're feeling okay now, you know? You ate a little something at lunch, you're okay. You drank a bunch of water, you're working it off, you're putting in windows, you're on a roof, doing whatever. 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we worked a lot. I did work a lot. 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon, I'm starting to sweat everything out. I'm feeling okay, right? Feeling okay. 5 o'clock, we're rolling up. Let's roll up. Me and my boss, we'd get in the truck. We had a cooler there with a bunch of warm beer in it. At lunch every day, we'd buy a bag of ice and throw it in there. This is me. This is how I know now what happened. We would get in there at 5 o'clock, and we worked a full day, and I'm not feeling as bad as I did in the morning, and I'm looking at that cooler, and I'm going, okay, I can do one, right? I can do one. Tonight, I'm just going to do one. I'm thirsty. One's going to make me feel better. You know, one's going to take this guilt and remorse away. It's just one. One is going to make me feel better, right? It's not. I'm not going to feel so bad. I know that. This is what this is telling me. Just one. You know, one's going to quench my thirst. Just one. Right. And then, we'd be on our way, and since we work out of town, we were hitting bars. You know, okay, I'll go in here. I'll have one. I'll play some pool. Through some darts. See about seeing who's there, if there's any women going on. But sometimes I could hold it together, and once in a while I could have some really fun. But most of the time, here's what happened. I would walk in, I would have one, and I'm looking for 2, and I'm looking for 3, and I'm looking for 4, and I would drink, I would get drunk, I would black out, I would pass out, I would wake up the next morning, and I would do it again. After I'm telling myself I'm not doing it again. Just not going to do it again. And this went on decades, Decades it went on. And I traveled around a lot. There was a lot of geographicals because, things get hot and I would move, Get in trouble, you move. Get in trouble, you move. I ended up in Prescott, actually. That was funny. I moved around a lot and I was working based out of Prescott. I was working in LA and I was working in Albuquerque and I was working all over the place. I would work out of Flagstaff. We worked out of Vegas. We worked everywhere. I was just working everywhere. And Prescott was it was nice. Payson and Prescott I liked. They were really small towns and they were really cool. And, this is where I met my ex-wife. And I come to Prescott and I walk into this little bar where Walmart is on Gail Gardner now. It used to be a little plaza with a Sears in it, and the place called the Inn. Me and my boss liked that place because it was quiet, it was around the corner, and everybody left us alone. So I walk in there one night, and behind the bar there's a redhead. She's 105 pounds soaking wet, and my jaw went boom, and that was it. I had quit my job and I moved to Prescott. And the funny thing is, me and her drank alike. We did. We hit it. Moved to Phoenix. We got married. We had started having children, and we'd party. And the blackouts were weeks sometimes. I remember once I got laid off right before Christmas, and that was a whole week that it was just gone. We had to sit back after we came to, and we're looking at all these Christmas presents that came in the mail from family members, and we had no idea where they were from. No clue. I remember that's what happened. That alcoholism continued to get worse. That marriage went to heck. It completely ruined that family. On my part. And the drugs too. I lost careers, I lost cars, I lost houses. The repo guy came and get cars. I'm just not paying for them. I'd rather be doing other things with the money. My mind is kind of mush by then. And this went on for literally decades. There's a bunch of, what do they call those, drunk log stories. You don't need them, right? Something happened. And I'm going to call these God shots. I like God shots. You know, I believe in a power greater than myself now. Alcoholics Anonymous is one because it helped me get sober. And when nothing else in this world could. When this kept telling me, just one's going to be okay. I couldn't quit alone. I've tried many times. I ended up in jail a number of times, all over the place. You know, Fort Huachuca, they threw me in jail down there. That was fun. But every state I moved to, I got arrested, got thrown in jail, had to go to court. And when I did my steps, I realized it was all had to do with alcohol and or other substances, doesn't matter. When I put substances in my body, my mind goes numb. And that's what I like, numbness. And then all these great French Catholic morals I grew up with are out the window. I don't care anymore. I really don't. You know, I just do things, and you know, and then you got friends that are walking away from you. I got one that said, you know, I call him up and, hey, what are you doing? Piss off. What? He goes, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to go out with you when you're drinking. Just piss off. And I said, well, what's going on? And then there was another guy I knew that we were out that weekend and called him up. And I said, you know, what's going on? And he's laughing at me. And I said, what are you laughing at? He goes, well, have you talked to so-and-so? And I said, yeah, I called him. He told me to piss off. And he goes, do you realize what you did? And no. And he would tell me. And that stuff went on a lot. You know, I would just give up on being any kind of human whatsoever. I would just do what I did, you know. And I would get in a lot of trouble for it. That's what killed the marriage. That's what my kids were, my kids did not like me. They actually hated me. And I remember that. They hated me coming home, falling down drunk, being stupid, ending up in jail, getting my car towed, losing the house. They didn't like that part. You lost the house. Yeah, we did. We're living in a motel. Yeah, we are. That's what it was. And then crap hit the fan in Phoenix. And then lost the house again, another one, living in a motel, not liking it. And I had an escape. I said, okay, you know, Prescott, we can do Prescott again. I said, why don't we come up to Prescott? And, okay, so me and the boys, we move up here. And their mom had moved up here too. She was with, it's a weird story. She was with somebody else, which was good for me. So we move up here, and it didn't take long for me to realize, and I stayed sober for a while. I really did. I tried hard, you know, because I wanted to rebuild a life for the kids, and I really did. And I got in with a moving company, and I remember this day clear. We were moving furniture, and I'm moving, and I kind of liked that job. It was a great stuff. I was in shape back then, and, you know, I was just barely 40, and I was okay. I was doing really well. I felt good, I was sober, and I noticed these guys doing something. These two guys I worked with, and I started watching them closely, and they would disappear inside the truck and stuff, in the back of the truck. And I'm thinking, you know, and I finally walked in back there, you know, and I said, what was it I said? I told these guys. I said, you guys, there's something you guys are doing, and you're leaving me out. And they had this big shock on their face and stuff, and boom, here we go again, you know, here we go again. And you know, the substance started, and very shortly after that the alcohol started, you know, because the alcohol was it. Boom, off again. And I realized very shortly in this town, it didn't take long, because I started running and doing weird stuff, you know, Chino Valley and Phoenix, and Prescott Valley and Prescott. And I had a nice Lincoln Town Car that went real fast. And it didn't take long to realize that I lived in cities most of my life after I left that little town. And you can hide in a city pretty much, and you can do a lot of cool stuff in a city and not get caught. I soon realized here, I felt it in my gut. I'm in a small town. This was back when the jail was still in Prescott. You know, this was back then. And I realized, I could feel it in my gut. I'm in a small town here. When the shit starts to hit the fan, I'm going to be in big trouble. Big trouble. And it did. you know. When I started talking about the 3 stages of alcoholism that I heard a speaker, he goes, stage 1 is the fun, right? Turns into stage 2. You're having fun, but you're having trouble too. Stage 3 turns into just trouble. That's all it is. You're no longer having fun, trouble. That's where we come in with our step 1 in here. You know, you come in and you're going, are you having any more fun? And when I came in here, I wasn't. There was no more fun involved. I was heavy-duty alcoholic. I needed alcohol to stay alive. I could not drink. You know, I could quit 1,000 times. I couldn't stay quit. You know, I just couldn't stay quit. You know, it's this. The book talks about it really well. When I read the doctor's opinion the first time, I said, well, that's me. That's me. Okay? You know, when the doctor says my life was the only normal one, that was me. You know, I could crash a car the first time, and holy cow, look at what just happened. Look at the trouble I'm in. But after 3 or 4 times, it doesn't matter anymore. That's my life. When I go to jail once, you're going, holy shit. But after 3 or 4 or 5 times, it's normal. My life had become normal. That was the only way I knew. And the doctor talks about it in the doctor's opinion. When I read that, okay. And then he talks about the reason why I drink. I love the effect alcohol gave to me. I can numb out that guilt and remorse, those resentments, that hatred, that fear, all that stuff that I've been living with for decades. I can have a drink or two, and it's immediately gone. I remember I could leave. I was working up the mall area, and I would come home, and I remember this clearly. I don't want to drink. I don't feel like drinking. I don't want to taste it. I don't want to do it, but I was going to do it anyway. Because I knew when I walked in and sit at that bar stool, I knew within 10 minutes that feeling of not wanting to anymore is gone. That feeling of what I've been feeling all day is gone. As soon as I put that 1 drink or 2 in me, all that feeling is gone, and I'm feeling okay, and I can continue to drink. Even when I don't want to, it's there. So I'm here in Prescott, and I knew trouble was coming, right? So I got 3 DUIs in a 10-month period. Yeah, it's cool. It was cool. And there was a problem at first. You know, they kind of, there was 3 different agencies involved. There was PANT officers, and some of you guys might know them. Partners Against Narcotic Trafficking. Yeah, they were on my case. So they got me the first time. There was a DUI involved. I went to jail. And I got a lawyer, and we were going to work this out because those guys have a license to do whatever they want. Sometimes they cross the line, and my attorney knew that. So we were getting out of that. We got some stuff thrown out of court, and then all I had was a DUI. And he goes, let's fight this. We can fight this. I said, okay, let's fight this. You know, and we postponed, and he's working on stuff. And that was in August, and in April, I got another one. And he called me up on the phone, and he goes, did I just hear you have another DUI? And I said, yeah. Yeah. He goes, you're effing yourself. And I said, yeah, I know. 2 weeks later, I got number 3. Yeah. I could not stop. I could not stop drinking, you know. My life was the only normal one. I've been doing this for decades. That was my life. I could get in a car and I could drink in a blackout, and what did that tell me? I didn't care about you. And I realized that when I got sober and started working steps. I could be drunk, I'd been driving a car in the blackout. That means I could kill anybody, and I didn't care. I might have cared when I come to in the jail cell, but I didn't care. My life had become normal. You guys taught me different. Those 3 DUIs, I had the prosecutor wanting me in prison for 18 months. That's what they were looking for. That's not too bad. This is way back in 2008. 18 months, that's what my attorney told me, and I had to get another one because the first guy said, I'm not doing this. So, you know, I got another one, and that was a pretty tricky story. I'm dealing with 4 children in my life, and I had a pretty good job, and my attorney came to that court date, and he was sitting in the back with me. He goes, prosecution's pushing for 18 months in a prison. And I'm going, He goes, what are you thinking? I said, I'm thinking that as soon as I get out of here tonight, I'm going to go grab those kids, I'm going to throw them in the car, and I'm gone. That's what I was going to do. That was what I was going to do. I was out of town. I was gone. He goes, okay, let's talk about this. Give me a few minutes. And he went to talk to the prosecutor. They worked out some sort of a friggin' deal. I don't know what it was. He came back with a set of papers, and he goes, they're willing to give you 61 days in county with work release program. They want your money. And I said, where do I sign? So that's what happened to me. That's how I got those God shots, 3 DUIs in a 10-month period. And I was angry at the time. I went to jail, and in jail, everybody in jail is not supposed to be there. You know that, right? It's always somebody else's fault, and I was no exception. It was always somebody else's fault. I got out of jail, and I started doing Alcoholics Anonymous, and I started working the steps, and I realized something. My sponsor made me realize something. He kind of kicked me in the ass. But what it was those guys, those officers, those police, they are getting paid good money to get guys like me off the street. And they did their job. And I will eternally be grateful for those 3 guys because they did. One was a female, I'm sorry. She was DPS. That was number 2. I was on my way to work one morning after drinking some rum and cokes and doing a big old fat line. And she pulled me over and she goes, you look like shit. Get out of the car. That was number 2. But anyway, those guys were paid to get guys like me off the streets, and they did their job. And today I'm totally grateful for them because I was on my way to death. I was. I didn't know it at the time, but I was, And I can say that today because I've been sober a little over 10 years, and my body has returned. That beautiful redhead I was talking about, I'm going to hit on her right now, that I married, pretty soon, she's probably not going to make the year. Okay? She didn't stop. All right? She didn't stop. So there's things going on right now with the kids that I'm working on, and it's been a heck of a week because the last time she ended up in the hospital, we realized that there's no coming back from this one. We damage our bodies to a point where there's no return. And I'm eternally grateful for you guys for showing me a way out. Because I had to come to Alcoholics Anonymous to realize that I was on my way to my deathbed. I really was. And I didn't know it. I was in total denial. The number 1 symptom of alcoholism is denial, right? Oh, somebody put it the other day. Don't even know I am lying. Right? Figure it out. DENIAL. Don't even know I am lying. And I was lying to myself. I didn't realize how sick I was. I come in here and I start working the steps, and I start realizing that for the past few decades, I have been doing nothing but damaging my life and the life of my children and the life of the people around me. And I remember doing a 9-step with my mom and dad once, and way back. And I was a liar, and I was a cheat, and I was a thief, and I was all those cool things when growing up. And I was telling this, and I was admitting all these things to my mom and dad, and my mom starts just laughing. She's just laughing her ass off, and I'm looking at her, I'm going, what's going on, Mom? She goes, Kevin, you lied about everything all the time. and I knew it. And that's... And I thought I was cool getting away with a bunch of shit. She goes, no, you weren't getting away with anything. There's just nothing I could do about it. Like I said, that 7th grade, when me and Karen drank that bottle and started getting in trouble, she realized then that's where the trust went. Now I have 4 kids that I'm dealing with, and I know what she was going through because I can go through it now today myself. When things happen and your trust starts to waver and all that shit. Yeah, that happens. But that's what that was. And then, so I went to jail here in Prescott, Arizona, and they let me out to work because my fine, when we walked into the judge turned around and he looked at me and he goes, I don't know what kind of deal you guys put together here, but he goes, we're going to go with this. He didn't like the prison sentence, but prosecutor, and they worked it out. He goes, but it's my turn now. Yeah. And he started piling up the consequences, and I had a shit ton of consequences. Number one, the biggest one was a $12,500 fine. He added it up, boom, 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 and he started for the first DUI, for the second DUI, for the third DUI, and he started adding on, and he's, you're going to go into jail, you're going to have to do the mad thing, you're going to do, the community service, I can't remember how many hours there were, there was 100, and I don't know. I didn't have a day off until, I think after Christmas or something. It was crazy. I had my job, and on the weekends I was doing community service. You know, so the consequences piled up. And I got out of jail, and one of those consequences was going to see a guy I met and I love to this day. His name is Rex. It was an alcohol and drug counselor. He goes, you're going to go see this guy, and you're going to listen to him. And I did. I walked in there, and we did our little interview. Well, before I went to jail, I went to see him, and we had an interview, a sit down. He goes, dude, go to jail, and then you're going to come back, and we're going to work things out. You know? He goes, your life is pretty messed up. And I said, yeah, it is. So I went to jail, got out, went to see him. I gave him a boatload of money. I don't know, 1,000, 15. I don't remember how much I gave him. But we sat in a circle, and we talked about relapsing. And I gave this guy a boatload of money. And that didn't get me sober. I would leave that place, and I was walking at the time. They took my license. They revoked it for 3 years. Okay, so I was on a bicycle or walking for the next 3 years. And I would go to the store, and I'd buy alcohol after that, and I'd drink it on the way home. The jail didn't get me sober. The consequences didn't get me sober. Nothing got me sober until I walked into Alcoholics Anonymous. And he told me, this is what he told me, I can't seem to help you. He goes, but I know who can. And he gave me, you know, you got court cards here? He gave me one of these, and he goes, you're going to go to one of these a week. And I was so resentful and angry at the time that I went to that first one, but just to piss him off, I'm going to do 2 a week. That was a good trick on his part. Because I was pissed. It was always somebody else's fault. I remember that very first meeting. It was at the Methodist Church on Gurley. I walked up there early, and I walked in. There was this black guy standing outside. He was doing a little yard work and stuff. And you know, I came up to him. I introduced him. My name's Kevin. How you doing? He goes, what are you looking for? I said, I'm looking for the Ruth room. And he goes, hey, I'm glad I'm here. And he's talking nicely to me. And nobody had been talking nice to me for a long, long time. Okay. My children didn't like me. My ex-wife didn't like me, of course. I was living in the industry I was in, drugs and alcohol. People aren't nice, okay? So I wasn't used to that. He's nice to me, and he brings me in. He introduced me to the chair. I walked up to that guy, and I said, I am Kevin. I was a little early. I said, what do you guys want from me? I had never been to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting before, right? They were pulling stuff out of me I didn't have, okay? I had consequences this high. I didn't know how I was going to get through them. I didn't. By the way, today they're all gone. Remember that. One day at a time. They're all gone. I asked him, what do you guys want from me? And he introduced himself, and he goes, buddy, I don't want anything from you. He goes, why don't you do me a favor? Grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and listen. At that moment, all my defenses fell off my shoulder. For the first time in my life, this guy didn't want something from me. He wanted me to sit down, grab a cup of coffee, and listen. In that meeting, I don't know what happened. I really don't. I went home after that meeting, and I wasn't drinking that day. I know it because of what happened. I went home, and I'm living up on Thumb Butte, and I'm making dinner for the kids and stuff like this. And my number 2 boy, he's in Kuwait today. My number 2 boy didn't like me sober, didn't like me drunk. He just didn't like me. I wasn't a nice guy back then. And I'm cooking dinner, and I'm doing something, and he's sitting on the couch, and he's looking at me funny. I had this state of mind going on because I went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting for the first time in my life. And I listened, and I heard something there. I couldn't tell you what I heard. Something happened in that meeting, what we call a spiritual experience. Something happened in that meeting. I was making dinner. He looked up at me. He goes, Dad, I said, what? I was a little giddy, whatever it was. Whatever it was that meeting gave me, he couldn't understand it. He goes, have you been drinking tonight? And I said, no, Kyle, I haven't been. Turned around and they continued to watch TV. I'll remember that forever because it was that meeting that did it. Something happened in that meeting. I walked in that meeting, I sat down, there's a bunch of sober people, they're happy, and I continued to go to meetings. And that's where I said at the beginning, people said, keep coming back. Huh? What does that mean, keep coming back? And I would go to these meetings, and a new meeting opened, a new meeting hall, a little resentment meeting, came out of here, Safe Harbor. They broke off, something happened, I don't even know what happened. They opened a place, well, there's Terry's here tonight. No, I don't see him. They opened a place called Serenity Place, and it was down by the bike shop. And they were telling me that at this meeting. There's a new place opening up, and it's a great AL, and I started going there. And I'm on bicycle, right? So I'm working at the mall, maintenance up there, and I'm coming down. I show up an hour early. I pick up cigarette butts. I wait for those old timers to show up. It was the meeting before the meeting is what got me. I'd wait for those old guys to show up, and then we had picnic tables outside, and we'd sit there, and I would pick up the cigarette butts, and they'd start pulling in, and I would go in there, and I'd sit there, and I'd listen to them. And these guys are happy. And when I sit there in the rooms, they're telling my story. Each one of those guys are telling the same story that I was living at that moment. The books have something pretty clear. When you reach that point, you have no choice but to pick up the spiritual tools laid at your feet. And these guys were happy, and they were talking about their lives, and they were joking about their past. I didn't think it was funny. What I was going through, I never saw an end to it. One of those guys was named Mitch. I asked him to be my sponsor. I didn't stay sober that time. I went out for 8 hard months. And there's something very special about that. I asked him to be my sponsor, and he goes, I expect you to do the work. He was this old Vietnam guy. Piercing blue eyes. He's no longer with us, but he was intimidating, and that's what I needed. I expect you to do the work, he said. I said, okay. And that's after I came back because I had another sponsor, and I went out after 7 months. And I was out for 8 long months. I heard a speaker the other day, speaker tape I listened to, and he's talking about a bottom. And it made complete sense to me, my bottom. He was going, he said, I like going to ask people, what's their bottom? What's their bottom? Well, you go to jail, you go to prison, you lose your family, those are all external circumstances. I had tons and tons and decades of external circumstances. Then he said something special, and I listened, and it clicked on the inside. He goes, your bottom is an internal matter. Your bottom has to be inside. And I remember that day clear as day now after listening to that speak, when I came back to Alcoholics Anonymous, because that night was brutal. I was fighting it with people at work. I was fighting with my neighbors. This is a rough one, and I did a 9-step on this. He's okay with it. I'm a 47-year-old guy. I'm trying to pick a fight with an 18-year-old son. That's who I was back then. I was a nasty individual. That next day, I knew there was something different. I knew I was done. Some speakers have a nice way to put it, but all I could say is I was done. I didn't know how to explain it, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I couldn't go on anymore like this. I went back to that meeting. And one of the old timers looked at me, he goes, you don't have many left. he goes, I'm going to be honest with you, you don't have many left. I said, yeah, I know. And I sat there and I shook for that whole meeting. And I went back the next day and I shook. And I don't know how long it was before I got over that. I was in bad shape. And then this one guy, Mitch, I asked him to be my sponsor. He says, I expect you to do the work, and I did the work. And my life began to change. I could quit I could quit drinking alcohol, and I could come to meetings, but that's not all I needed. This alcoholic needed to do the 12 steps to Alcoholics Anonymous right there. Number one, admitted we were powerless over alcohol. At that moment, I knew. The things that I've been doing, I knew I was powerless. And I knew I couldn't go on anymore. I just knew it. So I started working the steps. And then I started learning about AA history. I love AA history, okay? I started becoming in service, and I was a part of something really special. I was a GSR back in 2013, and I was in Flagstaff, Arizona. And we are in 180 countries. Okay, we're translated into 70 books, and they're working on like 20 more. You know, it's happening. One special thing is the Navajo. If you know the Navajo language, it's not a written language. It can only be spoken. And I'm in Flagstaff, and I'm at an assembly, and there's 250 people in that room, big room. And for the first time ever, they had a recording of a Native American, a Navajo, reciting the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. You could have heard a pin drop in that room. I love Alcoholics Anonymous for that reason. Now it's in complete book form today. You can get it in CDs or whatever they're called today, DVDs, CDs, whatever they are. But it comes in a book. You can get the whole book, the whole 164 pages of Alcoholics Anonymous in the Navajo language, and it's only spoken. I love being a part of that because it all has to do with that 7 tradition. You know, the basket that goes through here? We put, no matter what you put in that, you can put 3 nickels in that basket and it's going to circle the world. Because our GSO in New York, we're in 180 countries, we put money in that basket, and that money circles the world. It helps people in countries that aren't as free as America. We can reach those people. And that's what we do with that money, whether it's 15 cents, whether it's $1, whether it's 2. I'm grateful today. I'm privileged to be, I'm a treasurer for the sub-district. So I collect money from the different meetings and we disperse it the way we're supposed to disperse it. I'm also the treasurer for this. I can't keep my own bank in order, but but I can be the treasurer in certain meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I do my best because that money circles the world and it gets people like you and I sober. I came in here and there's a special lady that I met one of my first meetings. I can't even remember. She sat in the corner. She had a foam cup, and she used to write on this cup. It's kind of nuts. She was very good looking, too. People know her. Her name is Lucy. I was sitting in a meeting, and I babbled something. I was a wreck. You see this? I do this out of respect today for me and for the people that come before me. I was dressed in a hoodie, and it was ripped up, and it was no good, and I babbled something about kids in jail and all that. And it went around the room, and she got to her, and she started sharing. She looked at me in the eye, and she never took her friggin' eyes off me for like 10 minutes. If you know her, you know she can go on and on and on. But she looked at me, and she talked for 10 minutes. She mentioned page 25, that we have a solution if you do the work. And she came up to me after the meeting, you know, and she goes, "You need to come back." I said, "Okay," and I'll come back. And she's very, what's the word I'm looking for? She can be assertive. She goes, "You need to come back. There's people here that can help you." And I did come back. And when I come back, she introduced me to my first sponsor. She goes, "I want to show you somebody. She will always be my AA angel." She's very, there's a word for it, you know, but whatever. She will always be the angel for me because she introduced me to my first sponsor. He told me 2 things. He said, "You're going to call me every day and we're going to read out of the big book every day. Don't miss a day or we're done." I needed a guy like that. And I called him every day. He was a very good AA. He was another hard ass, but he was a very good AA. There's one thing he never told me to do. I don't suggest this for anybody. But I was new to AA, and he knew it. He never told me not to drink. He goes, "You're going to call me every day, and we're going to read out of the big book every day." And I remember I would leave work, and I would hit the bar, and I would have a couple, and I would come home, and I would call him. And we were in more about alcoholism stuff, about doing this and doing that, and, you know, and drinking this and not drinking that. And we just went through that. And he goes, "So have you been drinking today?" I said, "Yeah, I stopped by the bar." And he goes, "Okay, are you drinking now?" And I said, "No." He goes, "Why?" "We're time to go." He goes, "Why?" And I said, "I don't have it at home." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Because I'd be drinking it." I had just read that portion out of the big book. Click. That was another God shot. I love Alcoholics Anonymous today. We help people. You come in here, if you need help, we have a way out. We have a whole ton of people in here that can sponsor. There's many, many men and women in Alcoholics Anonymous, especially in the Prescott area. We have a way out if you want it. And if you're done, join us. Keep coming back, and we love you. Thank you.
All right, let's thank Kevin once again. Outstanding job.